我从未体验过的相机。双时代来临。
It's in advance when we have to be here, and I have an older kid to pick up as well, this mom said. But the young ones had a different take on the matter. This one was just happy that there was no school. Another child hoped the typhoon will continue tomorrow because he has a lot of homework to do. As commuters rushed to get home, trains on the MTR Island, Kuntong and Chunwan lines arrived at 2-minute intervals. Crowd control measures were enforced at some stations. The railway operator called on commuters not to rush to the stations right after the finished work. Most of the bus services also remained normal. The impact of Kapu became evident on the street since the early afternoon. Rain, which continued to intensify, left outdoor workers soaked. There were also swells in some parts of Hong Kong.
Kapu has taken a more northerly track in the afternoon and showed signs of further intensification as well. There were gale force winds over offshore areas and high grounds, and local winds are expected to strengthen further.
For the latest information about the storm, please call the Home Affairs Department's 24-hour hotline at 2835-1473. At the Central Pier, commuters are trying to catch the last few ferries that go back to the outlying islands. The last ferry that goes to Mui Wo will leave Central at 8 o'clock, while the last ferry that goes to Cheung Chau will leave here at 10 minutes past 8. But for those who want to go back to Lemma Island or Ping Chau, we'll have to make alternative arrangements tonight, as ferry services to these two islands have already been suspended. That's all from me here in Central. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Mona. In other news, workplace safety is now under review as investigators try to find out the cause of yesterday's industrial accident at the International Commerce Centre in West Kowloon. 6 construction workers died after a work platform collapsed and plunged 20 floors down a lift shaft. Industry experts are looking into how the platform was designed and reviewing whether safety regulations were met. Danielle Chan reports.
As the reality of yesterday's accident at the International Commerce Centre sinks in, questions are now being asked if this tragedy could have been averted. 6 construction workers were killed after a work platform collapsed and plunged 20 floors down a lift shaft. The accident left the workers buried in debris inside the lift shaft. The platform is suspected of being overloaded with construction debris when it collapsed. Some industry experts question why the workers weren't wearing a safety harness and whether the safety regulations were met.
If 6 people working there with a lot of debris and materials, it shouldn't be the case, and it's not the usual practice.
Investigations are underway to determine the cause of the collapse and how the platform was designed. Safety regulations stipulate that the timber platform should have a minimum width of 25 millimetres if it is only carrying workers, but the platform should be extended to 38 millimetres wide if it carries both workers and construction debris. There is speculation that the platform at the ICC construction site only contained a bracket support, that is, a 1-point support. Industry experts say that if this was the case, it provided inadequate support as the workers were so high up and there was also construction waste loaded on the platform. But additional support for the platform can also come in the form of circular brackets. The typical method used at construction sites is referred to as an I-channel, which involves inserting I-shaped metal bars across the bottom of the platform. The metal bars are meant to extend across the length of the platform and are usually placed between 1 to 2 metres apart to provide additional support for the platform. A 38mm thick platform with 3 support brackets should be able to carry a 1 to 2 tonne load. But even with this additional support, experts say that if there were in fact 6 people working on the platform together in such a confined area, it would not have been standard practice. The findings of the investigation into yesterday's accident are bound to have an impact on future regulations governing construction sites.
Yesterday's accident catapulted workplace safety into the spotlight, and many people are now asking whether enough was done to prevent the incident. But for many families affected by the tragedy, it may be a long wait before they find answers to their questions. Danielle Tran, TVB News.
Experts say a full-scale trade war between China and the United States is unlikely, despite a worsening dispute between the two countries. The row was triggered by a decision by the Obama administration to impose special duties on Chinese tires. In a tit-for-tat move yesterday, Beijing announced its own anti-dumping investigations into American motor vehicles and chicken products. Beijing has also requested the World Trade Organization to talk with Washington over the duties on Chinese tires. Experts say both nations have too much at stake and will work hard to limit the row's fallout. They also point out countries are not advised to resort to protectionism as the world focuses on reviving economic growth to tackle the global financial crisis. Still, there are concerns the Sino-US dispute could become a distraction at the upcoming G20 summit in Pittsburgh if it's not resolved in a timely fashion. US President Barack Obama is pushing ahead with tougher regulatory reform on the first anniversary of the collapse of investment bank Lehman Brothers. But as Jameson Wong reports, there are doubts tonight on whether world governments have done enough to prevent another economic crisis.
1 year on, and the global economy is still struggling to get back on its feet. The collapse of Lehman Brothers marked the start of the worst economic crisis the world had seen since the Great Depression.
No one ever dreamed of seeing days like that, and I hope we never see them again. And there was a day when the money market broke the buck. I really thought that could be it. I really thought you could feel the trepidation in the crowd down here was electric that day. And I really thought the markets could definitely go into a tailspin.
The U.S. subprime mortgage crisis and lax market monitoring were blamed for what had happened.
When you look back on it now, a year later, the writing was on the wall that what was happening should have happened.
Tougher monitoring and additional safeguards have since been introduced to prevent another meltdown. But U.S. President Barack Obama has stressed the need to do more. He'll deliver a key address in New York later tonight, aimed at reviving a stalled push for stricter oversight on Wall Street. Obama wants to give the U.S. Federal Reserve new powers to monitor big financial firms that could pose risks to the economy. He also wants to allow the federal government to seize and liquidate troubled financial firms and create a new consumer watchdog agency for mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. Despite all that, jitters still remain. A new Associated Press GfK poll showed 7 out of 10 Americans lack confidence that Washington has done enough to prevent another slowdown. And 80% said the American economy is in a poor shape. Something for policymakers to think about on the anniversary of the crisis. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Turning to the missing student case in the United States, police in New Haven, Connecticut, have discovered a body inside the walls of a Yale University building. The body is believed to be that of missing graduate student and bride-to-be Annie Lee, who vanished 5 days ago. No positive identification of the body found in the walls of the university's medical complex has been made. But police are assuming it is that of doctorate student Annie Lee, who was due to get married yesterday on Long Island. Authorities are now treating the case as a homicide. Lee's disappearance on Tuesday had baffled investigators prior to the discovery of the corpse. There was no video footage of the 24-year-old leaving the building where she worked, a laboratory under the eye of 75 surveillance cameras. Her ID, money, credit cards and purse had been found in her office as well. Yesterday,